Hello, this is a short video demonstration how to connect Wyse ThinOS to a Citrix environment. So you can see here, if you look at my Citrix, I'm running Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops version 7. If I look in my Citrix Studio, you can see I have a couple basic machine catalogs. Very basic, a Windows 10 VM and a Windows 2016. For applications, I went ahead just for my demo lab. I've published Calculator and Internet Explorer. If you look at the store, this is the important part. Notice the store URL, and notice also that it's HTTPS. So now I'm turning on my Wyse ThinOS Thin client. Just a minute, it'll boot up here. So this is what your Thin client should look like the first time you get in with a factory default. So we're going to say no, I'm not going to go ahead and load the configuration from a USB thumb drive, and I'm just going to cancel out. So the device will boot up, and again, haven't done anything special to my network or configuration. If you look at the device under system information, you can see this is a Wyse 3040. The version of firmware is the 86013. If we look under remote connections, I can set my broker to Citrix Zen, and if you remember, in the last page, I had a Citrix storefront URL, so that's just the https://demo3-citrix.bplab.local. And I'm going to go ahead and check the box because I'm going to use storefront style. So again, this is without using any management console. I'll go ahead and set a default sign-in domain as well of the BP lab, and go ahead and click OK, and the system is going to go ahead and restart. Now, one of the things that I was pointing out about my storefront site, it was like most default Citrix storefront sites, it was HTTPS. So in order to use Wyse ThinOS with an HTTPS site, you're going to need a certificate. So now it's connected, but it's saying I need the required certificate. So let me go ahead and go back to my system. And the easiest way I've found to get a security certificate is just go ahead and open a browser and go to that same site, and you'll notice that it's going to view the certificates. I'm sure there's a lot of other ways to get them, but I'm just going to go ahead and take the details, and I'm going to copy it to a file, do the default export. I'm going to put it on a thumb drive and just go ahead and name it demo3-citrix. Again, using all the defaults to export it. Once I've got it on a thumb drive, I can go ahead and remove that thumb drive, and I'm actually going to put it in my Thin client. So in the front of the Wyse 3040, I've put my thumb drive with my certificate, and if I go in here under System Tools, under Certificates, I have the ability to manually import that certificate. So if I do that and restart, so again, all I've done, I've taken my Wyse 3040 with ThinOS. I specified the broker of the Citrix storefront site, and I've added the required certificate. Device is rebooted, and as it comes up, now I can go ahead and log in, and it should enumerate my applications and desktops. So pretty simple to manually set that up. You can see the desktop pools and those applications there. If I click on the Windows 2016 desktop just to show that it works, you can see I'm connecting to a published desktop. So go ahead and log out of here. So the manual configuration is one way to do it. Obviously, anybody that's going to be managing Thin clients wants to use the Wyse Management Suite, and there are extra videos that I've made available that are more detailed on how to install and configure the Wyse Management Suite. But what I'm going to do for this video is I'm just going to show you real quickly how I would set that up to use with Citrix. So if I'll go ahead and switch over to my virtual machine that's running the Wyse Management Suite and log into the console, I'm going to create a new group. So I go under Groups and Configs, and I add a group, and I will call this group just Citrix Demo. Pretty basic. You'll also notice that my default policy group did not have any policies in it, and that's that's the normal way that I recommend setting these up. So your default policy, leave that empty, and then create a new group underneath that. So let's go ahead and work with that Citrix demo group, and we're going to click on Edit Policies and then choose ThinOS, because that's what we're working with. And then we'll scroll down the list and Citrix Broker, and we'll go ahead and configure that. And we'll just put in that same URL, so the demo3-citrix. You can see it's going to resolve a couple different options. In this case, I'm just going to go to Citrix and then the bplab.local. I could put the /citrix/store. I've tested that, and that'll work as well. But let's just put that base URL inside of there. We're going to check the box for Enable Storefront, and then go ahead and save and publish that. Again, there's a lot more settings and things that you could configure in there. While we're here, let's go ahead and add that security certificate. So if we go under Apps and Data, and then we look under the File Repository in the bottom left. So I went ahead and inserted that thumb drive again, and let's go ahead and connect that thumb drive to demo to my WMS server. So now I've got that same thumb drive I used in the first example that contains the certificate. And since I've got it there, I can add it into my file repository, browse and find it. So I've got to switch to the thumb drive, and I've got the demo3-citrix certificate. Just give that a description, and then I can go ahead and upload it. In this case, I just want to make sure, because I may already have it there in my test lab, I'm going to check the box to override the existing file. Obviously, if you never imported the certificate, you wouldn't need to check that. But now that is in my software repository, I'm going to go ahead and as well, while I'm here, let's just go ahead and just search for a cool desktop wallpaper and see what we can find. I'll scroll through this list. Let's just try and find something that we can use to, this is to actually customize the look and feel of the Wyse Thin client. So okay, this one here with this triangle and the moon thing here looks pretty good. Let me see if I can select that and download it. And once I have a JPEG file, so I'll go ahead and save that into my pictures, and let's just call it wallpaper. Oops, wallpaper. And now go back into my Wyse Management Suite, and again under Apps and Data, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add File, choose the wallpaper, select the type, so it's wallpaper because that's what I'm uploading. Give it a description, so we'll just call this cool wallpaper, and upload it. So now that security certificate and the wallpaper are available in my WMS software repository, let's go ahead and assign them to the Citrix demo policy. So if we look under there, where's where our broker is specified, and let's just go ahead and go to Edit Policies again for ThinOS. And first thing we'll do is under Visual Experience, we'll configure this, and we're going to go ahead and enable the wallpaper. And because we uploaded it, the wallpaper JPEG is an option that we can choose from. And then the default desktop color, you can set that to anything. One of the things you'll notice, it chooses green by default, so it makes it kind of look smoother. I usually just switch it to all zeros or black on that. So now I've set my wallpaper and then the default desktop background color. And the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and edit the policies and look at security. Now when I turn this on, enable this, it's going to enable several things there. So let's go ahead and check the box to auto install certificates and choose the demo3-citrix certificate. And while we're here, it did set the security mode to none, which is a good thing because that'll lock down the thin client and prevent users from making changes. But I'm going to go ahead and set it to high just for the demo. I also went in there, you'll notice it turned on VNC viewing so I can remotely shadow, so I had to set a password for my VNC viewer. So I went ahead and saved and published that policy. So now I've got a WMS policy, sets the adds the security certificate, a visual experience, which sets that background wallpaper, and sets the Citrix broker. So now let's go ahead and take our Thin client. We're going to reset it, and we're going to reset it to default because we had manually configured it with the storefront information, but I want to show you how we can configure the device and get all of the information directly from a Wyse Management Suite server. So again, it's booting up. We're going to tell it no. We're not going to boot. We're not going to import from a thumb drive. We're just going to go under Central Configuration, and we're going to go ahead and enable the WDA tab, and we're going to use WMS, and we're going to use the default group of the Citrix broker. I got to fix that Citrix demo, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the WMS server. Now that WMS server that there by default is the cloud instance of WMS Pro. In this case, we're using WMS standard local, so I just need to put that demo 2. We're not going to use security certificates, and then again, the default group policy is DEFA-Citrix demo. So now if I validate key, it should come back and it says, okay, that is a valid key, a valid WMS server. It needs to apply the settings to my Wyse ThinOS 3040. It'll go ahead and reboot, and you can see the communication. Okay, there's the wallpaper. It's going to actually change the visual experience to go into a storefront mode. So it needs to reboot one more time. Again, the reboots are very quick on ThinOS, so it'll come back up and communicate with the WMS server. There's the black background I was talking about, and now it's got that. Now it's ready to log in. So if I just put in my username, password, and domain, it'll communicate with the storefront and have my applications available to me. You can see I've got those there. If I click on apps, you can see again the full storefront style. If I want to have calculator, let's go ahead and launch a published application. So that's running on my 2016. So there's Windows Calculator published to my Wyse ThinOS client. So now I've taken a device and I've manually pointed it to a WMS policy group. That's good. Again, that's going to get you quite a bit of the ways. But if you want to take it one step further, you can actually set up custom DHCP option tags. And again, this is covered in another video in more detail, but I'll just show you real quick there. The 165, 167, and 199 options are really what's required here. And I'm just telling it the WMS server, the group that I want it to go into, which is the DEFA, and we're just going to have the device by default go right into the Citrix demo group. So we want it to show up there in the Citrix demo group, and we are not using CA validation, so that's set to false. So now the last thing I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and reset my Thin client one more time, and I'm setting it to default. And every time I've reset it before, it actually took me directly into the Wyse setup wizard because there was no central configuration. This time it should communicate through DHCP option tags, and it'll tell the device what WMS server to communicate and what policy to apply. So straight out of the box, any new devices plugged into this network will get this policy applied to them. So just like it did before, it first gets the wallpaper, and then it realizes it needs to go into a storefront mode and reboots one more time, contacts the WMS server, and is ready to log in. So hopefully you found that information useful to you, that's how you could get started if you have a Citrix virtual apps and desktop environment and you want to connect a Wyse ThinOS device to it. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.